Now it's time to take a look at 2023 pay period number 9 that ended on February 25th. Let's talk about it coming up. What happens when you paid for a parking place and there's not one available? What do? You go inside to the counter, you let them know, hey, I need to get my parking permit to put in my window, and there's no space available. You park off to the side, and they go out and find your space for you. They find whoever's not supposed to be in that space, and they make a move. That happened to me this week. I pay for parking places. I budget for 2 parking places a week. I usually use 1. I don't mind paying for a parking place because it allows me to extend my day. It allows me to know where I'm going to park. You'll never find me parked on a parking ramp. You'll never on an entrance ramp or an exit ramp. You never find me creating a parking place. I'm going to be in a legal parking place wherever I'm at. And it really does help to know that Pilot and Flying J will find your space. There are some times when you have one of those LTL loads where you got a lot to get done, and if you do get it all done, the reward is you're going home at the end of the day. If you don't get it all done, you might have to make that last delivery in the morning. I already had the plan going. I staged just a couple of miles from my first delivery. I get up in the morning. It was time to get that pre-trip done. Night before, somebody had to run somebody off so I could have this spot because I had paid for it early in the day. There are certain areas you just got to pay for a spot ahead of time. You got to do your pre-trip. You got to make sure you check your air pressure in your tires. Make sure all your lights work. The last thing in the world you want to do is wind up having an inspection because you had a light out. It's going to screw up the whole day, and you're not going to make all of your appointments. And if I don't make all those appointments, I don't get to go home at the end of the day. I want to make it home. Now, I have a rear view camera that I use. Love it. It's from a company called Boyo. You should check them out. It's worth every penny. No, they're not sponsors, and I don't even get one for free. All right, I drove over to the first location, which I said was just a couple of miles up the road. The one problem with this particular location is you don't get to dock your own trailer. You have to drop your trailer in the numbered spot that they tell you to drop it in, and the yard dogs will take the trailer and take it to the door, and they'll do the unloading. So I had to take all the blocks out of the trailer before they moved it. It's not a problem because it's a lay-down forklift. It's not going to slide around when the yard dog moves it. Nothing like that's going to happen. They're only going a short ways, and they're not going to be moving very fast. But you have to wait until your trailer comes back to you so you can get out of there. I've been to this second stop before. It's a really easy stop. This particular time I decided to back in all the way from outside the fence because there were a couple of vehicles in there, and they decided to leave while I was backing in, which did make things a little easier. But the last time I was here, I circled and aimed right at the dock. Stop number 3 is also a repeat. I've been to it before. This particular location, they'll bring me a pallet jack on the forklift, and I'll move the cargo to the back of the door, and then they'll take it away, and then they'll come back and get that pallet jack. It's really easy, and it does help speed you up and get you out of there. The next one was a fun stop. I had to maneuver around quite a bit in town to be able to figure out where their dock was and the entrance. The problem was there were 3 trucks waiting to be unloaded in the docks. Well, the item I needed to deliver here was very light. I drugged that pallet to the back door, and he come out, picked it up, and took it away. I've been to stop number 5 before. This is not going to be a problem. They're only getting a single pallet. They'll get that thing off real quick, and I'll be out of there. On to stop number 6. Stop number 6, things went haywire. Got into a problem. This particular stop, I'm delivering an electric pallet jack, and it does not have a battery. Because it doesn't have a battery, and they have no dock available to remove this particular item, that presented an issue. So how were we going to get it to the back of the trailer? Well, they came up with an idea. They'd get a chain, they'd get a cable, they'd get something to drag it to the door and then pick it up. While everybody else was looking for a cable, a chain, a strap, something to drag it to the back, one of the maintenance guys pulled his Jeep up, hooked the winch to it, drug it straight to the back. The paperwork did not have a time for this particular location to close. We thought it was a 24-hour operation. Turns out it's not. They close at 4 o'clock. I got there at 4:30. However, they were still unloading this other truck, and I only had 8 pallets on there, and they had several pallet jacks available. Wasn't a problem to get those 8 items off the trailer. Now, it was a bit of a difficulty getting in there. Objects like fences and posts and grass make things a little more difficult, not to mention that Carol Fulmer tractor sitting there right next to me that was sitting at an angle. But I got in there, it wasn't that big of a problem, and I got unloaded, and it was time to head for the house. There's no more real reason to hurry. I got plenty of time on my drive clock. Won't be an issue. I can make it to the house easily, park the truck, and I'm shut down for the weekend. Another weekend at home. I love getting home for the weekend. Taking a look at the logs page. When we look at the logs this week, I had 2,300 logged miles, 2,304 odometer miles, 2,323 dispatched miles. Yeah, I actually got paid for more miles than I actually drove. That happens sometimes with PC Miler. Time to look at my unedited pay statement for the 9th pay period of 2023. That's the period that ended on February the 25th. The first run on this pay period started at the Fort Recovery, Ohio terminal and ended at the Greer, South Carolina terminal. It had stops in Oakland, New Jersey, South Plainfield, New Jersey, Bordentown, New Jersey, Somerset, New Jersey, Jessup, Maryland, California, Maryland, and Prince George, Virginia. You'll notice that South Plainfield's on there a couple of times. That's because when we got there, we found that they were closed for a holiday. This run paid $1,427 for 1,567 miles. Or 91.1 cents per mile. Second trip on this week's pay period went from the Greer terminal to my home in Shadydale and had stops in Port Wentworth, Georgia, Pooler, Georgia, Alma, Georgia, Waycross, Georgia, Tifton, Georgia, Moultrie, Georgia, and Thomasville, Georgia. It paid $616 for 756 miles or 81.5 cents a mile. All right, it's time for the summary block. The summary block was $149 for empty miles, $81 for handling and securement, $56 for hazmat miles. We're paid 4 cents extra whenever we're placarded. $300 for the insurance cash out. I don't take company insurance. $100 for layover pay. That's whenever I do a 34-hour reset on the road or for some reason have to stay over like for a holiday. $1,317 for loaded miles, $340 in stop pay. A total of $2,344 in pay, 2,326 miles, or $1.01 per mile. Looking at the calendar page, February has had 25 days through the end of this pay period. I worked 18 of those days, was home for 6 of them, and I was off on the road 1 day. Year to date, we're looking at 9 weeks into the year, $18,819 in gross income, 23,556 miles for total miles. That gives an average gross income of $20.91 per week and an average miles of $26.17 per week. Multiplying those numbers by 52 gives us the annual estimation of $108,732 or 136,084 miles at 79.9 cents per mile. I show a lot of the LTL loads, the less than a truckload loads that we do, but we do both LTL and full truckload. The full truckloads are where you get in the truck, you take off, and you get to your delivery point. Sometimes you have an appointment, sometimes you just have the hours they're open. Those loads are not as challenging to me as the LTL loads where you have multiple stops. I love the challenge of calculating the stops based on the times that they're open. The company does not force me to make it to these places on a certain day. I can make it the next day. I like that challenge of being able to make it the same day when I have that, or over a 2-day period, whatever it is, getting as many stops in each day as I can get in safely. That doesn't mean I'm driving flat out. It just means that I'm going to calculate, look at everything very thoroughly, and know my plan from when I start out. And if you know your plan from when you start out, like this week, when you saw that last day, that was a single day that I showed. I managed to get every stop in, and that last stop was a very lucky stop because they were technically closed when I got there. Fortunately, they were still offloading that Carol Fulmer truck and went ahead and got me. But by getting that last stop in Thomasville unloaded, I was able to take off and head for the house. And it was a Friday, so if I had not been able to offload, the company probably would have sent me home anyway, and I probably would have had to come back there first stop Monday. As it was, I was able to get under a different load on Monday. Now, next week's load, because I can tell you that because I'm not seeing into the future, this is just recorded after the fact. The next week's load was LTL runs. LTL runs, again, you just got to fit everything in and do the best that you can do to get it done. Planning is crucial. Plan your parking, plan your fueling, plan your stops. If you plan the run right, you're able to get more done. This job is really about managing. You're managing 5 clocks, yourself, shippers, receivers, your equipment, and you're managing your dispatcher. You might not think you are, but you are. Because we all know if you call in at a certain time, they've got runs. If you call in, if you get there and you have no available hours, they're going to tell you wait till tomorrow before they give you a run. We know how we can manage the best way we possibly can. And that's what we have to work our way into. Until next time, make sure you're enjoying every day at work.